And we are a little after 12:02, so we shall be starting soon. So thank you all for joining today. My name is Johan Mallet. I am joined here by Idan Basri, and we are both program managers. We're part of the Microsoft Cloud App Security team. And today we will talk about how we can use Microsoft Cloud App Security to protect your Salesforce environment.
So first of all, why to protect Salesforce? As you know, Salesforce is one of the most popular SaaS applications in the world, and it contains your critical intellectual property, customer information, employees information, and many more information that is critical for your organization. And not only this, many organizations use Salesforce even for so-called storing data because it's so popular and so many files of organizations are being stored in Salesforce that it's really important to you to have DLP capabilities in Salesforce in order to understand what is the sensitive information in Salesforce and what is not. And today we will talk about not only protected Salesforce, but the sensitive information detection. But if we will jump to the start again, we want to understand exactly how Salesforce can be protected by a account that is being compromised or by a mistake that a user has done, and it makes a security risk or even potential breach. We will see today 4 different use cases regarding Salesforce. And the first use case will be how you can protect against the standard cloud-based threat that MCAS supplies you. It's contained possible traveler detection, protection against massive download, massive sharing, or unusual activity of a user. In addition, the second use case that we will talk about is specific for Salesforce, to see unauthorized user that is viewing or editing specific data in Salesforce that can be usually detect or defined as potential breach. The third use case is the configurations in Salesforce and how to protect against changing configuration to risky configuration. In this case, we will show Salesforce sharing policy. And the fourth use case is our advanced DLP policy for detecting sensitive information in Salesforce files.
And so how are we going to do all of that? Using Microsoft Cloud App Security. I assume that a lot of our attendees today may not have worked with Cloud App Security before. So I'll give you a very quick overview of what this is and what you can do with it. So Microsoft Cloud App Security is what we call a Cloud Access Security Broker, or a CASB. And the goal of a CASB is to help protect your application, your SaaS application, in the cloud. We also have actually support for PaaS application, like we reviewed in one of our previous webinar session. And today we will talk about how you can secure Salesforce. Just in quick summary, the way we can apply protection to your apps in Cloud App Security is on very different level. We can provide protection for standard threats, such as somebody trying to do a brute force attack, for instance. We can provide protection for your data. We have DLP features. We can provide protection also against shadow IT, where MCAS is able to discover which applications are in use in your environment. And we also have a reverse proxy feature as part of Microsoft Cloud App Security that can basically apply to any app. Today we will review more specifically how you can secure Salesforce. And to secure Salesforce here, we will review everything you can do using our application connector, where we basically have a cloud-to-cloud communication between Microsoft Cloud App Security and Salesforce to allow for governance of the app. So it gives us a very granular view of what the users are doing, what kind of data is stored and at rest on Salesforce, and how we can help you secure that. And so let's start by reviewing the scenarios more in depth that Idan just mentioned a few minutes ago. So number one, protecting against cloud threats. So Microsoft Cloud App Security can protect Salesforce and a lot of other applications against a large number of well-known cloud threats. So here you have a good idea, a good view of those apps, but it's not a full view. You have more that that have been added since that slide was last edited. But as a few examples, we can discuss, for example, the idea of detecting things such as impossible travel. If somebody connects from the US and the same account connects also from Israel, for example, there is probably something that that is irregular, unusual, or not expected. So it could potentially be a compromised account. We also verify for suspicious or anonymous IP addresses, like somebody connecting from the Tor network, or a connection coming from an IP that is a known source of malware or command and control center. All these things are also fed into MCAS, and you can use them to detect threats that would be triggered targeting your Salesforce environment. Another example is brute force as well, for which we are able to trigger if there is if there are a large number of failed password attempts. So these are typical example, and these really help you protect your environment. So you're going to ask me, how do you configure that? Well, the good news, you don't. You don't have to configure your environment for this to happen. It is by default, as long as you connect Salesforce to Cloud App Security, all those policies start kicking in, and they're all in read only, so you don't have to worry about anything. You'll just get the alerts, and that will help you mitigate and hopefully mitigate the risks, and hopefully increase the security of your environment.
Unlike the policy that Jan talked about right now, these policies, the second use case, third use case, and fourth use case, are policies that needed to be configured, but the configuration is very easy, and Jan will show you in the demo that we will show in few slides. But let's talk about the use case themselves. So the first use case is unauthorized users that is viewing or editing leads or opportunities. Leads and opportunities can have sensitive information that's regarding the organization, the customers, or intellectual property of the organization itself, and therefore you want to protect this information. In order to do so, in MCAS we can alert if a user that is unauthorized user is viewing, editing, or even creating a lead or opportunity. Creating is less suspicious. Viewing or editing is the more suspicious scenarios. You can filter the users by user group, or you can even add repeated activity that is a filter that will filter only activities of a user that repeats in a time frame more than the amount of times you desire. For example, if you want to catch edit and viewing of leads or opportunities within a time frame of 30 minutes or 1 hour, and these you want to alert only if these activities are exceed 10 activities in 30 minutes, you can configure this specific configuration. The third use case is about Salesforce sharing policy. In Salesforce you can configure if a file is being shared or not, and to who. And if in the tenant level the Salesforce sharing policy is enabled, we in MCAS can alert you in a moment, and then immediately you can see who was the user that enabled this sharing policy, and you can go to Salesforce, or you can alert to the Salesforce owner in order him or her to disable the sharing policy. And the fourth use case is the DLP policies in MCAS. As we said in the beginning, Salesforce is literally one of the most popular SaaS applications in the world, and it has a lot of files in it. Not only information in the records, in the leads or opportunities. And we in MCAS can download the file and scan the content of the file and alert you if there is sensitive information. This mechanism of download the file can be near real time, only to files that are being edited or created right now, or it can be in backlog scanning. You can periodically scan all the files that are stored in Salesforce, and you can inspect the content of the file by our DLP engine of Office that is very powerful and has more than 200 built-in sensitive information type. It has exact data match filtering, fingerprinting filtering, or even trainable classifier that use machine learning. And of course, all this can be customized or using our built-in types. In this way, you can protect yourself from all the information that is being stored in Salesforce, that it will not leak to undesired party. And now we will go to the demo.
Thank you, Idan. So I will take over quickly for the demo. Let me open my my demo environment. So here we have I have a couple demo environments that I will demonstrate and show you. So this is the Cloud App Security interface. For those who haven't seen it, I'm on the policies page. So on this policies page, you can first of all review all the policies, whether they are configured by the user, just like I configured a few for Salesforce, or they are built in. So this being a test environment, there's not much activity happening, but you can see a quick idea of some of the alerts that would be showing up. For example, the impossible travel is very simple to explain, which just means cases where you have one single account with connections from different parts of the globe. You also have activity from an infrequent country. If you have a user connecting from a country where usually there's not much activity, and there are a number of others. I will let you browse through them. All of these are obviously documented on our official documentation. But now let's review the more specific policies, and most importantly, the policies that are created manually, that you are able to create to add some value to the product, specifically for Salesforce. So Idan mentioned the idea of having a policy that would be triggered when you have unauthorized user viewing or editing leads or opportunities in Salesforce. So leads and opportunities in Salesforce are simply Salesforce objects, and they're very specific to Salesforce. And for that, we are able to detect activities that are very specific to Salesforce, not just generic things like logon, but things that are specific to the app itself. And that we can do thanks to the fact that we have an API connector, and we do query the Salesforce APIs cloud to cloud from MCAS to Salesforce. And that gives us the opportunity to see when somebody is editing a Salesforce lead or Salesforce opportunity or an account in that case, or when somebody views an opportunity or a lead. So all of these can be used to have a detailed view of what's happening at the Salesforce level. Now you know, depending on your usage of Salesforce, you may tell me, yeah, this is not very relevant to us. It would only be relevant if it happens a lot of time in a row. So no problem, we can do that. Repeated activities, 5 times in 30 minutes. You can change those thresholds as you please, of course. And you can add filter. So if we want to add a user, for example, here, and say, yeah, only when it's not Idan, for example. So that's what we can do here. And if this is not this user triggering one of those activities more than 5 times in 30 minutes, then we would trigger the policy. Obviously, this is one example of things you can do, and I usually invite our customers to browse through the list of activities that are related to Salesforce. And if there are other things that would be relevant for your security posture, that's important to review. I'll give you another example with the third scenario that Idan discussed. I'm going to cancel my way out of here. So scenario number 3 here is sharing settings being changed. So sharing settings are critical for any cloud app now. If you decide that in your organization, you are blocking all sharing of files, you do not want to enable sharing, but somebody enabled it by mistake, obviously an admin, you are able to catch that by simply having this activity being monitored by a policy. When it happens, you can decide what will be triggered. It could be an email, it could be a text message. You could even send an action to Power Automate if you please. And you can add more filters, for example, if you want to say, if this does not happen from a certain admin user. And last scenario here, I want to show you a quick overview of file policies and how DLP functions in Microsoft Cloud App Security. So we talked about threat detections here mostly, but there is also in Microsoft Cloud App Security this concept of DLP, where you can use MCAS to enforce data compliance, or at least be notified when your data is not compliant. So for that, you need to create a file policy here. And in this file policy, you will be able to trigger files that have specific parameters to them and specific content to them. So for example, let's say you want to, you really care only about documents. So we're going to go with file type, let's say documents and spreadsheet. And then we can add additional filters as you please. You can add an owner, for example, if you want to verify the files for a specific user. That's a possibility. And then you can decide to inspect the file content. That's really where there is a lot of value, especially in Salesforce, where you do have very often, at least, a lot of sensitive data, and you may want to be aware, to gain some awareness on what kind of data is being stored in the environment. So for that, I can choose here the data classification service and choose a sensitive information type. So these types are the same you configure in Office Security and Compliance Center, and they also apply to Office DLP policies, and we can leverage them for other apps thanks to Cloud App Security. So that's what we're doing here. So let's say you have financial data, such as credit card numbers. You could check that out from your Salesforce. So obviously here in the filters, we can add as an app Salesforce. If you don't add anything, it's going to apply the policy to all the apps that are connected to MCAS. And so any file here that contains a credit card number or an EU debit card number would be triggered. You can change the instance count. If you wanted to say, let's say under 5, I'd probably just somebody having the bad idea of storing his own credit card numbers, then you can do that, and you will limit the number of results. Then you can decide to create an alert, so you would be notified. And at the end of this policy creation, you can see the governance actions. So for each app, we have different governance actions. Let's review what we have for Salesforce. You can only notify the users in this case. Just a good reminder that anything you would do in Salesforce, due to the way the APIs are functioning, it will be read only when you use Salesforce. So that's very often a good way to fast track your adoption when you work with the Salesforce team. And they would be, and rightfully so, they could be reluctant to having something connected to Salesforce. Know that it's fully read-only here. Then you can decide to create the policy, and it will start not only scanning the files that are already stored in Salesforce, but also you would get some very quick updates for the files that were newly created. And through our near real-time engine, we will be able to scan them in a timely fashion, in usually a few minutes, depending on the load. But that's the idea. We have those two engines that work in parallel. One scanning all the files that are at rest, and the other one scanning files that are newly added in near real time. So going back to our favorite slide deck, we will open it for questions. So I would invite you to please type any questions you have in the chat, and Idan and I will reply to these. So I see that there is a question here. Will my own DLP types will show as well? Idan, if you want to, I see you're typing, but if you wanna respond.
Yeah.
Here.
So yes, your custom DLP incentive information type that you created in the compliance center will be shown in MCAS also. If it's sensitive information type, exact data match fingerprinting, and trainable classifiers.
Thank you. So I see there are no pending questions right now, but we're going to wait a few minutes. Of course, we want to make sure that everybody can have the time to ask any additional question you have in this area, how we can help you with Salesforce, or for that matter, if you have any other question on the MCAS side, we're still going to respond. We're happy to help. So I'm going to move on the slides here, but feel free to type any question you have at your convenience. There is a documentation for Microsoft Cloud App Security. I will paste the link here as an announcement in the chat window. You will be able to click on that. We also have a Ninja training that you can access, and usually that Ninja training is very good from going from 0 to hero on Microsoft Cloud App Security very fast. So we strongly suggest that you review that if you want to ramp up your skills on Cloud App Security. We also have our favorite tech community where you can ask questions, and you can also share feedback and get response on any question you have. So let me paste the links that I promised here. There's another question from Richard here. How easy is it to set up the initial integration with Salesforce? What is needed? So it is fairly easy. You would need accounts, obviously, that can have admin rights to Cloud App Security, and also that can have admin rights to Salesforce and provide the proper access. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you as well one of the videos one of the blogs we put together, where we actually have a video with my nasty French accent, where you can also review the entire process for configuring Salesforce. So I'm gonna paste that as a response to your post within a few seconds. Please keep the questions coming. We want to make sure we can help you as much as possible. We can respond to as many questions as you currently have.
I see here another question about files that are uploaded via applications through REST or SOA API to Salesforce. So MCAS will scan them also. Every file that will be in Salesforce, MCAS is able to download and scan it. And another question from Scott. Jan, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, to follow up on the first question, I am struggling to understand how MCAS is able to apply policies to control risk user behavior when the user is on an unmanaged device. And 2, the user is authenticating to and interacting with a cloud app box, which is a using a non-organizational account. Excellent question. So if you are using a non-organizational account, like for example, a personal box account, there is not much we can do in the scenario you're discussing here. MCAS is here to help you with mostly organizational accounts. So if you have a corporate box tenant, yes, we can help you. If you have a corporate Salesforce tenant, just like here, of course we can help you. However, if you have a non-corporate tenant, MCAS will not be able to go very far and assist you with that. We do have though a few things that are we have a few things that are here already and others that are coming in our roadmap. So what you can do is you can, if you are on a managed device though, you can decide to block access to certain applications using our discovery feature. So for that, that would apply to any application, not just the applications that are managed and sanctioned by MCAS, but basically any application that MCAS discovers, you would be able to decide, I want to block it. And in that case, you could very well define that nobody in the organization will access those applications. In the future, you will also be able, again, still on a managed device, to control the type of data that is allowed to be uploaded to those apps. But obviously, if you're on the non-managed device, on a non-corporate account, there is nothing that can be done. I see a couple more questions. Questions from an anonymous attendee. File are uploaded via an application. Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. Idan responded to this one. If we have a PowerPoint for the MCAS and Salesforce integration, that can be used. So we have this. We have the deck that is here. A video of that webinar will be shared. It will be available. So you can definitely use that, and I will make sure that in just a minute right now, I will paste the link to that video, to that blog where you have this video of how to configure your Salesforce connector. Question on licensing. What is the minimum license I need to use it for my users? Well, the minimum license is the MCAS standalone license. You can purchase the product standalone on a per user basis. So if you have 10,000 users, you would need, of course, 10,000 licenses. Otherwise, Microsoft Cloud App Security is also a part of EMS E5 and Microsoft 365 E5. That's what it is. Microsoft 365 Business Premium. I am not familiar whether or not it includes Cloud App Security. We can circle back on that. Maybe if Idan or Boris have the response, or I'm sorry, or Erin have the response. We can try, but otherwise we can try to follow up. Feel free to ask the question in the tech community, and we will be able to follow up on this. If you ask the question in the communities, it will you will get a response. A question from Taras. If we integrate MCAS with existing Salesforce environment and configure SSO, would this rewrite all existing users with same usernames? I am not sure what you are referring to. So the users in Salesforce will be detected by Cloud App Security, just like it detects all the additional data, simply by connecting to the by connecting cloud to cloud, as I said, through the APIs. We are able to list the users and identify them, identify which actions were performed. No need to configure SSO in any way here. There are other features in cloud app security that we didn't bring today that are not specific to Salesforce. They do apply to Salesforce, but not only. On what we call conditional access app control, which is basically a reverse proxy feature. And the goal of that feature is to proxy your users and control the traffic in real time. So for that, we do need to integrate with your identity provider, whether it is Azure AD or something else. And in that case, your username would still stay the same because we pick them from what we get at the SSO level, at the IDP level. If I misunderstood your question, please feel free to precise add another question. I'll be happy to keep responding. A question. Let me add a few more questions. So is there a question from Abhishek? Is there any PowerPoint available for basic to advanced level? Generally, we don't have PowerPoints that are fully available. We have some available to our partners. And if you are trying to ramp up, the best way is really the Ninja training. We'll just paste the link directly in the chat window. What triggered the ransomware alert in Salesforce? What is the recommended response to it? So in Salesforce, by default, the ransomware is not triggering. Salesforce has a different way to store the files. It's usually not going to apply much because even though there's a lot of data stored in Salesforce, it's not something I personally have not seen ransomware specifically in the Salesforce data because it's very often going to be triggered by sync clients. For example, if you have a Box or a OneDrive tenant and you have data that is being synced, it's very there's a clear pattern on detecting it. So this policy, I have not seen it applying to Salesforce just yet. If you have cases that you've seen with ransomware specifically on Salesforce, it would be great to discuss that. If you can precise that in the chat window, and maybe we can also take it offline. So another question from John: Is this only applied to cloud or web application, or can it be used for standalone? So right now we're talking about cloud application. If by standalone you mean an application that would be hosted in your own on-premises, that would be just standard app. There's not much we cover with cloud app security. We have other solution that can help with, for example, protecting your workstations, or we have client DLP solutions to protect your data on your workstations, but that wouldn't be part of the scope of cloud app security. Quick follow-up on the licensing. Maybe one extension to this one. MCAS is licensed on a per user basis. So if 40 out of 100 users are using Salesforce, I need 40 licenses. Excellent question. So if you use MCAS for any app, let's say you have 100 users that all use Office 365, then you need 100 licenses anyway. If for that reason, for any reason, you only have 40 licenses, you can still use our scoped deployment feature. So there's a feature in the settings of the product. It's simply called scope deployment, and you can decide which users are in or out in terms of licensing. We're gonna give everybody a few more minutes. I see no more pending questions right now, but please feel free. So I think that closes it. We promised you to cover that content in half an hour, and I think we did, with a few additional questions, but that's perfect. And please, if you have any follow-up questions, we would love to hear from you in our tech communities, and be able to assist you. And if you have feedback to share on this webinar or on our Microsoft Cloud App Security products, the tech communities are also the best way to reach out to us directly. Thank you all.